Hello everyone, it's been a while since I've done a wargaming update, and part of the reason for that is that I'm working on something that I wanted to include, but it's taking me a little while to get it finished, and also as time's gone on I'm thinking it's worth a video in its own right. So I'm going to include that in a future video and show you other bits and pieces that I've got finished and purchases I've made in the last sort of 5 or 6 weeks or so. So you're looking at the moment at all the remaining infantry figures that I had in my Panzer Grenadier box set, 15mm Battlefront box set for Flames of War, which I'm going to use these for O Group when, by all accounts, Ricefitch Press are going to bring out a North Africa supplement, and hopefully I'll have some armies ready to play O Group when that happens. And also getting pretty close now to finishing everything in that box. So when that happens, I'll put another video up showing you the entire army. Don't know if I'll be able to. Yeah, I can get those in focus, show you them a little bit closer. Right, there we are, on to the next thing. Next thing then, I finally managed to get around to painting a lot of 3D printed Camels. I got 3 of them done some time ago, and then these have just been sitting around waiting for me to complete. Nothing much to say about them. They're going to just be, bits of scattered terrain or maybe objective markers for various games. I mean, they'll do for lots of different periods. The files originally are from a kind of Arabian Nights sort of fantasy type collection, but they're fairly generic. They don't look fantasy, they look more like average baggage camels and so on. So as I say, I can use them for the Crusades or Moguls, or even maybe my French Foreign Legion. Not necessarily the ones with saddles like this, but the more kind of generic ones with baggage on them. Yeah, nothing special, but got them done and they're there ready to use now. I got another 6 ME109s painted up. These are 1/300 scale 3D printed models from Butler's Printed Models. So I've now got a grand total of 16 ME109s, so that's 4 groups of 4. So that should do me for the time being. And these ones are the high resolution prints. If you remember, some of the ones I purchased previously had been the low res, and definitely prefer it's worth paying that extra bit just to get these high res models. They're much crisper and easier to paint because you haven't got ridges and so on that's sort of diverting the tip of your paintbrush. So yeah, pretty pleased with these. And then finally, in terms of painting that I got finished, this is what they call it, an LVT brackets A1, which essentially is an amphibious tracked vehicle with a Stuart tank light gun turret on it as well. So this is going to be used with my United States Marine Corps army when I get that completed for bolt action. Did I say it's also from Butler's Printed Models? I can't remember. So I've now got 2 vehicles that I can use with that army. I'm pretty pleased with that. And now on to my purchases. Okay, my purchases consist almost entirely, in fact I think entirely, of various books that I've found in charity bookshops. Starting with this one, which I actually found in my local garden centre, has a charity bookshop in it, and I found this in there. It's a pictorial history of World War One. So you would imagine, I think this came out, this was published in 2002, this edition 2009, and so you would imagine that it was mainly photographs, which I suppose it is, and some of the photographs are, you know, unusual. They're not your ones you see in normal kind of histories of the First World War, so I thought it was worth having for that. The one criticism I would have of it, though, I have read it. There is a lot of text in here, a lot more than you would expect in just the pictorial history, and it's actually written by a Dutch historian by the name of Hans Andriessen, and I would sort of criticise it really in that he has a bit of an agenda, which is perfectly, you know, sort of an acceptable stance to take, and that is that he sort of starts from the viewpoint that most of the histories of the First World War have been written in English, either written by the British or written in English, and therefore they're written to an English-speaking audience, and of course the British, having been on the winning side in the First World War, it does tend to have a very kind of what he would describe as you know, the result is an unbalanced account of what actually happened in the First World War, and therefore he's attempting to set the balance straight. And it says here that the historian Hans Andriessen is a specialist on World War One, an author of Die andere Waarheid, with the other truth, in which he presents a fresh insight into the events that caused the First World War, 1914 to 18. Now, he's not coming at it from a kind of political or ideological point of view. I mean, a lot of people have written, you know, in a kind of with a sort of communist or socialist kind of viewpoint that the First World War was a war of imperialism. I mean, I don't think there's any doubting that it was an imperialist war, but even that was considered a kind of fairly outrageous stance to take on it at one time. He's coming at it more from the point of view that the Germans weren't necessarily to blame for the war, and of course after the war ended at the Treaty of Versailles, they were obliged to sign a sort of war guilt clause to the treaty, accepting responsibility for the cause of the war, and he's trying to set that right, and he goes over the top a little bit, I think, especially as this is really meant to be a pictorial history, and it's not really the place to repeat the arguments that he came out with in his previous book. Also, I mean, a lot of the things that he argues, he doesn't back up with any references. So unfortunately, you know, there were a lot of secret treaties and secret agreements between powers before the First World War. So a lot of it isn't kind of supported with references to documents or other works, and for that reason, you know, I just don't think it works. I would much rather this book had just been a book of pictures, and the author hadn't tried to involve the reader in, you know, fresh sort of repetition of the case that he came out with in his previous books. Good example would be the sinking of the Lusitania, you know, which he almost sort of justifies. I mean, it's well known now that the Lusitania was carrying ammunition and sort of what you might call contraband, you know. So in that respect, it was a legitimate target, but it was, you know, a war crime really. And he argues, you know, the from the German point of view about the various justifications for U-boats sinking passenger vessels without giving the crew and the passengers a chance to leave the vessel. I won't go into it here. Maybe I'll do a video sometime in the future about my views on it. But yeah, from the point of view of the pictures, a good book. I'll stop going on about it now. So the next one I got, which I've also read now, is a work of fiction, but it's by Arthur Conan Doyle, the better known for Sherlock Holmes, but he wrote quite a few historical novels, including 2 based around the White Company. This is a reprint of an old, I think this book was written in 1922, and this is a reprint of it. So it has some of the original illustrations from the first book, and it's work of fiction, but it's based on historical events and historical characters. And you know, it's interesting really to note that you know, there were authors writing similar kind of books to what we think of as sort of fresh take on historical fiction, even back in the 100 years ago, and I enjoyed it. It's a good book to read. Then another charity bookshop I visited, and I haven't read any of these books yet, but I've got my own books. So another one, I thought this was interesting, another illustrated history of the First World War. So this isn't a pictorial history, this is a history which has got illustrations on it, and it's written by John Keegan, who is a historian that I much admire, now departed, but he wrote a book called The Face of Battle, which, if you haven't read it, is absolutely superb military history. But this is just of the First World War, and as you can see, there's a lot more text in it, so going to enjoy reading that. Then at the same time, came back from this particular bookshop with quite a collection. It must have been my lucky day that someone with a lot of interest in military history had sold up all his collection, or maybe passed away, and this particular bookshop had lots. I'm sure they all belong to the same owner originally. This is a book on the Spitfire, you know, so it sort of tweaked my current interest in World War I and the Battle of Britain. No, sorry, World War II and the Battle of Britain. So I thought I might as well grab it while it was there in the bookshop. And again, there was another book on the same subject by John Nichol. Now, one of these 2 books I noticed, I think it's this one. Yeah, John Nichol was actually the RAF pilot who was shot down during the First Gulf War and taken prisoner, and appeared on telly, on the TV, having been badly treated by the Iraqis with black eyes and everything. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this book, and there was a third book that I didn't buy on the subject of Spitfires. You know, it's a bit of a coincidence that they were all in this small section in the bookshop, so I think they must have all come from the same original owner. And then also there were loads of Napoleonic histories in there, so I only picked up 2, but there were a lot more. Again, I imagine they must have all come from the same owner originally. So I got two books on the Battle of Waterloo. Jeremy Black is a sort of local historian in a way. He's at the Exeter University, I think. You often see him on television appearing in different things. This is written by someone called Rupert Matthews, who I haven't heard of before. But you know, there's so many books on Waterloo that you know, it's a very overstudied subject in a way. But I thought I would pick them up, having you know, had my interest in Napoleonic warfare sparked again by soldiers of Napoleon. And that is it. That is everything I've got to tell you. I'll try and keep this one relatively short. And as I say, the other thing that I'm working on at the moment is not too far off being finished, and I'm going to make a separate video on that, because I'm really kind of getting into the way it's developing, and got quite a lot to say on it. So had I included it in this video, it would have stretched the video out exceedingly. So that's it. Yep, thanks very much for watching, everyone. See you on the next video. Bye for now.